A warm welcome to our listeners. This is SciLang Global Podcast, where polyglots from around the world help us unravel the relationship between languages, science, and ourselves. My name is Katerina, and today I have the pleasure of hosting our guest, Ryan Seow, a chemistry student and a polyglot from Singapore. Warm welcome to you, Ryan.
Thank you. It's my honor to be here.
So, my first question is how many languages do you speak fluently?
How many languages do I speak fluently? I would say, I would say maybe not fluently, but comfortably. Comfortably would be three, three or four. Yeah, three or four. Yeah, so they would be my native languages, English and Chinese. Chinese as in Mandarin, and French as well. And I speak Cantonese at home as well. So I would say I'm generally comfortable with those four. Yeah.
What made you to speak those languages? Have you been taught them from since you were born, or have you started learning them? Did you learn them at school, some of those, or?
Yeah, so in Singapore, actually, we have a bilingual policy in that we all have to like study two languages at school, which is English and our mother tongue, which would be one of three languages, either Mandarin, Malay, or Tamil, right? So because I'm Chinese, so my second language would have been would be Mandarin. Yeah, so I learned Chinese and Mandarin in school. And when we enter secondary school, a certain number of students would become eligible to learn a third language. So my third language was French out of a list of other languages. And we speak Cantonese mainly at home. Cantonese is like a dialect of Chinese. There are a few like major dialects in Singapore for Chinese, which is like Hokkien, Teochew, and Cantonese. I understand all of them, but I speak Cantonese at home as well. Yeah, so that's how I went about learning all of them. Yeah.
Do you have, from all you mentioned, any which is your favorite one?
Oh, that's a tough question. I don't really have a favorite one, but the one that I use to talk to myself is French. Yeah, I speak to myself in French. Like sometimes when I'm thinking, I'll be like, I'll just like use French and I'll trail off. I think some of my friends also mentioned that when I like talk to them, I will suddenly like drift away and speak in French to myself for a while, and then I'll come back and like yeah.
You saying you are thinking in French, and how is for you, for example, now? Imagine the situation that you are studying the chemistry and you are being introduced some new theories or reading some academic papers in another language. Do you also have like the language, the connections between all the languages you mentioned, or do you know certain topic on in certain languages?
Mm, okay, I think that's an interesting question about technical vocabulary, because I think technical vocabulary is something that is one very difficult to pick up, especially if you don't actively use it. Because for actually, I wouldn't say the bulk, but for the entire of my education for like science, it has been completely in English. So I know all of the terms in English. The funny thing is that currently I'm actually working in I'm working on a science research project in which is where I synthesize nanoparticles for bioimaging purposes. And that lab itself, actually, most of the people are Chinese students, so we converse mainly in Chinese. But the problem is that even though that's my native language, like that's my second language, like I'm a native bilingual, right? But the problem is when they start mentioning chemical terms, I don't know what they're talking about. Like they would suddenly be telling me, "Oh, can you pass me?" And then they'll spout like a chemical name. I mean, they'll say everything in Chinese, but when they spout a chemical name, I'll be like, "I'm sorry, what is that?" Yeah, and even if it's like a reaction name or a chemical name, it would it would suddenly be like a blank in my head. I'm like, "What is that?" Yeah, and then after like countless repetitions of going back and forth about what it is, because I think for these students, because they learned the sciences in Chinese mainly, so they might not also know what the term is in English, right? Or they might have like a vague idea of it, but because they've been using the chemicals so often in Chinese, and suddenly there's this like student that doesn't speak a technical vocabulary in Chinese, they're like, oh no, what's this name now? And then they have to think for a while, right? But fortunately in chemistry, we have like chemical structures. So I'll usually like, okay, why not you draw the chemical structure for me? And then they would just draw it out for me. Or they would type it, or I would just use like I would just like Google the name and then I'll figure out what it is. Yeah, so I would say that that has been one struggle in terms of technical vocabulary for me for Chinese. For French, I think it's easier because French technical terms in chemistry are kind of similar. So I've managed to get by so far with that. Yeah. So I think when it comes to like reading a paper, so far I guess in the sciences, most of the publications are in English, so I don't really like I haven't really encountered any problems. But I would say, in terms of the communication, maybe in terms of technical vocabulary, that would have been a challenge for me. Yeah.
And do you find, on the other hand, that there is some benefit of speaking so many languages when it comes to studying or doing a research?
Oh, yeah, definitely. So, one would be that if I enter a lab that, like for example, in this lab, right, where most of the people speak Chinese, um, I wouldn't say that not speaking Chinese is putting you at a disadvantage, but um, going through like the lab processes might be like easier if you speak Chinese. In the sense that everybody there knows how to do all of the procedures. They are able to explain what they are doing better in Chinese, as opposed to like maybe they would spend a bit more time trying to figure out what it is if they were to use like English. Even though English is like I would say like the common language when it comes to like science, because publications are in English, and I guess most conference presentations are in English. Yeah, but in the lab itself, I would say that being able to speak Chinese appeared suddenly to be an advantage, because I would say, make more friends in the lab. Like I could get more help from other people. I could talk to more people. And of course, on my part, because I didn't know a lot of the technical vocabularies, but I know what the words are. So I would usually like note them down and I would like check them up outside of the lab to check what they mean. And then I'll be like, okay, and then I'll fill up my notebook and like, okay, yeah, so this is what they meant just now. And then I would check back with them whether that's what they meant. Because sometimes I think you'll be familiar with the idea that the language that we learn and the language that we speak might be slightly different. Sometimes for efficiency purposes, we like cut down certain words. So like that's kind of a problem too, because then some of the information gets lost, which I think is also a problem when it comes to like translating articles into like English, or maybe like the thought process when it like the original thought process might be in a different language, but when it comes out in English, maybe some of the information might be like lost, or it would require maybe a lot more words to convey the same idea.
I understand. You mentioned two very interesting points. Yeah, so if we stay with those translation, do you have any personal experience with that when you were trying to translate from language to language, and yeah, you knew that it would make sense, but it's still like missing something?
Yes. So I think recently in the lab, when my mentor was trying to like teach me a new procedure, um, he essentially typed out the entire procedure in Mandarin to me. Um, it took me a while to understand what he was trying to say. So that's one thing. At least when it was on text, I think I could use like a dictionary or something to like cross reference, and then I would have to check back with him whether this was actually what he meant, and then he had to like repeat it in a certain in like with more words. So evidently there was some like missing information, because when we were typing in text, I guess as opposed to like typing a full methodology, he's typing in text, so he will be using like text language, right? Which is which is even shorter than what we say in spoken language, right? Yeah, so that's one thing. And then when he came to the lab and then he explained it to me, a different procedure. So there are two procedures, right? So one of them he explained over text, and the other one he explained verbally. Uh, I guess verbally it was easier for me to like translate, because I could just directly ask him, oh, how about you show me how to do it instead? Then I would be like, okay, I can emulate this process. But on text, I was like, okay, now I need to figure out what this is, and I have to like slowly figure it out. Maybe ask someone else in the lab for help. Yeah. So I think that's some of the challenges that I faced in that regard. Yeah.
And when speaking about the translations of the text and knowing all the technologies and the very smart translators and now even the Chat GPT, what's your opinion on this topic? If it's like more helping us?
Well, I definitely think that the technology is here to stay, so we should definitely like embrace it and tell ourselves that, okay, why not we work with them? Why not we work with these tools and use it to our advantage? I think actually, okay, I haven't really tried using it as a translator before, but I would say that it has helped me understand not say understand, what have I done with it? Oh yeah, so I have used like Chat GPT to practice my languages actually, and I guess even for the Chinese stuff, I would just put it in there and ask them, can you like explain this step by step to me? And it's not correct most of the time, because like if the procedure hasn't been done before, like if it's a novel procedure, I don't think they would have any information about it anyway. Yeah, so then they might not be like completely useful. But yeah, so I think the good thing about ChatGPT is that when it comes to science, they will always like put this disclaimer at the end of their like long answer that, oh, it is always best for you to check with a trained scientist and blah blah blah, or like to check with academic publications. And yeah, so I think that's a good thing to yeah. So on top of using these tools, I think ChatGPT is kind of like the new Google, it's like the new Google. Google still does the same thing. It gives us like a bunch of sources that we still have to run through ourselves to figure out whether they're reliable. So I think we should use like the same skill set to approach ChatGPT. Maybe teaching people how to use ChatGPT might be a better idea, as opposed to being reluctant to use it. Yeah.
That's actually a good idea. Yeah, and especially as it's a new tool, as you mentioned, I would personally agree with you completely to use it as one source, but still be using like the other sources, including the humans.
Mm.
Yeah, and one other thing you did mention before was you said that it's different what we learn in language and what we actually speak. Do you have any example with this one, this situation?
Um. Well, I would say that in almost every single language that I've learned, okay, even in Singapore, right? Because in Singapore we are like a multiracial and multiracial society, right? And in fact, we have 4 official languages: English, Chinese, Malay, and Tamil. So the 3 languages on top of English are the ones that I mentioned earlier, for our bilingual policy, right? So I'm not really sure if you're familiar with Singlish, which is our Singapore English, right? So the truth is that we kind of mix a lot of these languages together in a sentence that we have. Um, yeah, and this includes like the dialects that we have, whether it's like Cantonese, Hokkien, or Teochew. So we try to like, okay, it's not that we try, because we've been speaking like this since we were young. So I think the point here is efficiency when we're speaking, as with almost every other language, right? When we are speaking, we try to be a bit more efficient. And because when we're speaking, we also can use gestures and all that to like and verbal cues to get our idea across. So I guess like Singlish, the the main idea, I wouldn't call it a main idea because there's no like principle behind it, but I think it is that we try to use like the least number of words to convey the most amount of information to the other person, right? Like I think an example is that like if somebody says something to you that is like really really shocking, in English you would probably say something like, oh, this is really shocking to me, are you sure this is true, right? That might be like a common sentence to say back to the person. But in Singlish you just use two words. You just say really meh, like really meh, and then the person opposite will know, oh, the person is like shocked, or the person is confused or something like that. You'll be able to understand that oh, maybe I need to like clarify with the other person or something like that. Yeah. And I think in like a lot of languages that exist, I would say like I think French also like we shorten a lot of things. There's also like the vers long where we inverse like the words. I don't know, people find it cool or something. And I think actually in French now, a lot of like English words are coming in. Like I think recently somebody on Twitter told me that instead of saying like for in English we would say it's too much, right? It's too much. So in French we would say like c'est trop. But apparently he heard that it's becoming like more popular to say c'est too much instead of like c'est trop. I don't know how that's like more efficient, but I guess maybe it's more cool in like spoken, right? I don't know. But yeah, I think in Malay as well, in Malay, I think my Malay teacher constantly tells me that if you want to learn conversational Malay, I will have to teach you this. If you want to learn like formal Malay, I will teach you this. I'm like, why not? Why are they not the same? And Malaysia, oh, cause people don't necessarily speak like that in the streets. And if you speak like that, people think you're a bit like a bit too like formal, and it can come out like a bit strange to people. Like, oh, why is this person talking like that? Yeah. I think in Arabic too. In Arabic, like because I think the problem, okay, it's not really a problem, but the difficulty to me in Arabic is that because I learned Arabic purely out of interest. I know zero persons who speak Arabic. Yeah, so the thing is, I picked up Arabic and I'm only learning like modern Arabic. But the truth is that, especially like, because I see this on Twitter all the time, that people are like, oh, nobody speaks modern in real life, but you have to like pick like a dialect to learn. And then I'm like, okay, I don't know which dialect I'm supposed to learn because I don't know anybody I can speak to, right? So I'm like, okay, I'll just stick with modern because at least I can understand the news and stuff like that. Okay, I'm not at that level yet, but I was like, okay, at least if I can understand the news. And then if I feel like, okay, maybe I go to this region more in the future or something, maybe I'll pick up that dialect instead. Yeah, so that's an interesting thing. Yeah.
Mm, to me, yeah, you're probably the first person I know that has been learning Arabic. Would you would you share some ways how do you learn a new language?
Learning a new language. I would say that my learning style has depended mostly on an external teacher. I think that is also because of my schedule, because I'm still in school, and then I my hobby is learning languages. But you know, there's like school, and then there's like lessons, and then there's research project, and then there is language learning to do. So there are a lot of things that I have to struggle at the same time. Juggle at the same time, not struggle. Maybe struggle is part of it too. But yeah, so juggle at the same time. So I generally depend on like on a tutor for languages, so that I tell myself, okay, I have to set aside this amount of time every week to go for classes, and I try to make language learning a part of my life when I commute. I read my notes, especially if like I'm starting out the language like complete beginner. I think complete beginner is it's like maybe the most I would say it's like the most frustrating part when you first start to learn a new language, because like, oh, I know so many things already, and then I have to go through all of this like basic things already, and then you get like frustrated. I need to learn what the car is again. Then you need to go through like a long list of vocabulary that is really tiring. But it's language learning is more of like more of a journey that I guess you can't really compare. Um, I think a problem that I had in the past was that I used to compare it with my um progress in my other languages, um, especially because like English, Chinese, and French I learned in school, and then when I picked up like other languages, like currently I'm learning Malay, Tamil, Arabic, yeah, so it's a bit more difficult now because I don't have that amount. I don't have the luxury of time that I had back when I was in high school, where I actually had a lot of time. Yeah, because French was part of the curriculum, right? But now Malay, Tamil, and Arabic are not part of my curriculum, and I have to learn them outside of class. So I don't necessarily have the luxury of time to practice. And as I mentioned, I have nobody to practice Arabic with. Yeah, so that's also a problem.
That
Um,
was the question I was having in my head. Now, how do you actually practice such a language if you can't speak? Like if you're speaking with yourself, or if you try to search for some tandem partner online, or how do you go?
okay, understand. Okay, so I think it's more of like for especially for Arabic, I guess, where I have nobody to speak to. So I sign up for more classes. Where I tell my tutor that okay, maybe we can focus on conversation and we practice speaking instead of going through like grammar and all that. Because while learning grammar is important, speaking is also a very important part of it. I think the other avenue that I use is a lot is Twitter, where I think the language community on Twitter is really nice because we can just post stuff. I usually just post like either an audio recording. I think recently I started posting audio recordings, but before that I didn't really have the confidence to do that. So I just wrote. I just tweeted like sentences. I used to like post pictures, and then I would like comment what I would type out um, how I would describe the picture in Arabic or whichever language I intend to practice, and then some kind soul would correct me or send me a Twitter message. Or me, I think the people on Twitter are very nice because I think the Arabic especially the Arabic ones, okay, mainly because I tweet for help on Arabic. Yeah, so the people would be like, okay, this is how you can correct a sentence. So they give me like two responses. The first response is usually how I could correct my sentence, and then the second response is usually how uh how I should write it or say it to sound more natural. Right. Yeah. So I think those are like the two main avenues that I depend on to practice a language that I don't have anyone to practice with. Yeah.
That's a very new thing to me. But thanks for sharing this one. And you said that you've been currently learning three languages at the same time. Am I
Mm-hmm.
correct?
Yeah.
Is it more helping, or is it more confusing, or how does that work for you?
Um, I would say that so I when I want to like learn multiple languages at the same time, I tend to make sure that one like the progress is like staggered. So I think Malay is the language that I have like the most progress of in, right? So I will make sure that I would reach a certain level, like maybe like intermediate level in Malay, and then I will pick up another one. Arabic actually I stopped for a period of time, and then I picked it up again like recently. Yeah, so Malay, then Arabic, and then Tamil is like completely new to me. It's a bit difficult because it's also a new script. Like Arabic and Malay are two like completely new scripts to me. I can read Arabic script already because I learned it before. But now when it comes to Tamil script, I'm like, okay, now I need to take some time to like focus on it and learn a new script. And when I look at the Arabic script, sometimes like the sounds also like I get like confused. I think in Malay is also a bit confusing because there are some words in Malay that are borrowed from Arabic, and the pronunciation is not necessarily the same. Yeah, but so I would say Malay and Arabic. Okay, learning Arabic tends to help me with Malay a bit because of how Malay takes the words from Arabic. So some of the words I actually already understand in Malay because of Arabic. Yeah, but in terms of like new scripts and all that, maybe it can be a bit confusing if I learned two new scripts at the same time. Yeah, so that's how I try to like stagger my learning instead of learning like three completely new languages at the same time. I think that would be like extremely disastrous.
Now, slightly different situation. But my question is, if there is a moment when you meet a new person and you know that you share multiple languages with them, which one do you start chatting to this person?
That's an interesting question. I think I might start speaking in French first. Because like that's the language that I used to think in. So that might be the first one that I start speaking in. But usually I would ask like the other person which language they would like to speak in. I think especially if like people like we both speak multiple languages, then we might want to like I think it's a pretty cool situation if I speak one language and the other person like replies me in another language, but we still understand each other and we have that conversation in like two completely different languages. I haven't been in that situation before, but I think that would be pretty cool.
Okay. Yeah, so you were saying that it's also hard to compare like learning with languages and like the progress you're doing. Um, is there anything which is like motivating you when learning languages?
Okay. I think the motivation I have for like each language that I have learned is uh, not necessarily the same, but I think it's always important to like have that motivation to yourself instead of um, like forcing yourself to learn a language because it's like cool or something like that. Maybe being cool is like a motivation, but yeah. So I tend to like find like a more concrete like motivation for myself. Um, Personally, I think it's really important because I almost lost some motivation to learn Arabic in the middle because the very basic reason for me picking out Arabic is because like during COVID, so previously I used to take lessons at like a language center and all that, right? But during COVID, there was no more access to this, and actually the only center that that had lessons at that point in time in Singapore was this Arabic language center. So I was like, okay, I'll just learn Arabic, right? Because why not? So I didn't really have like a motivation to learn it. Just that there was a class available, so I was like I would just pick it up. So when classes started to when my schedule started to get like a bit more busy, I stopped. I decided to like the motivation just like okay, there wasn't any motivation in the first place other than just going to classes, right? So after that, I stopped it for a period of time. But I refound some motivation to learn it because I realized that it actually helped me to understand a bit more of Malay, and also that I think Arabic is like generally a very beautiful language to learn. I really like the script. I do know how to read a lot of scripts without understanding any of it. Like I can read the Hindi script and the Japanese script, but I don't understand what they mean. Um, yeah, yeah. So having a motivation is really important. Uh, in that matter, yes.
Okay. Maybe one of my last questions is, do you think that learning a new language can have an impact on someone's personality?
Yes, actually, yes. I think a lot of people say that like because I tend to like switch languages or sometimes actually when I'm thinking in French, I will start speaking in a French accent, speak English in a French accent with my friends, and they would say that I'm generally like a lot more aggressive when I'm speaking in that accent. um I think it's like I think when you speak in a different language, you think in a different way, right? Because of the way like languages especially when you reach like a more intermediate and advanced level in the language, you start to like have those language structures imposed onto your thinking, in a sense, like okay, I can't really like put it in concrete words, but people tend to say that I'm a bit more aggressive when I'm speaking French. I'm a bit like nicer when I'm speaking in English, and I'm a bit more I don't know how to describe that, but people say that I tend to be like a shopping auntie when I speak in Chinese. Yeah, so I don't know where that comes from, but yeah. So yeah, so I think the personality does like change when I'm speaking in a different language. Yeah.
But that's like the impression the others have. And would you say that you would be a different person if not speaking French or if not being bilingual, for example?
I think okay, I do think that I exploit these impressions to my advantage, in that because I think in France, because I went to France before on two different immersion trips, and I think the people there are really direct, and sometimes I sometimes because of how long I've spent there, when I come back, I'm like, okay, I just need to tell these people in a very direct way that I'm not interested in what they're talking about, instead of going through like the formalities of, oh no, it's fine, because like French people are extremely direct. I almost got a shock when I was there that they were so direct to me, because it's not something that you get that you're so used to when you speak in English or whatever. Especially in Chinese, because in Chinese we are all really nice people. We go like one circle to tell people no. Yeah, but yeah, so in French it's like the other way around. Instead of going one circle, we just tell you no, and we don't like it. Yeah, so that has been like really helpful to me sometimes, especially like in terms of I think it's good to have like a work-life balance, and I think like that French side does help to do that to me in a sense. Yeah, but like the Chinese side like helps me to like give a bit more of a politically correct answer to somebody when when okay, I should go one round to tell the person like, oh, I don't really like it.
Okay, and my last question to you, as you said that one of your native languages is English, how do you feel about English being often the language that everyone speaks or everyone is expected to know and communicate in?
I think that I don't necessarily think that it's a bad thing, because like as I mentioned, for like in science, at least I think at some point everybody realizes that they have to like publish in English, although that's also a problem to some people, I guess. But at some point, because of that, there is like a common language to discuss about technical stuff. Um, I wouldn't be able to discuss about technical stuff in like a different language. So I'm very happy about that. But I think that's like the starting point. Like once you have like a common topic, I think from there, you can like branch out to like other languages, because I think it's not very fair to like evaluate a non-native speaker of a language about their necessarily about the ability, just because like because sometimes if you're not like a native speaker of English, maybe you will convey things in a different way than you wanted. So I think some people might think, oh, why is this person talking like this, or why is this person conveying like this, when you can say it in another way. Maybe it's not so clear to them. So I don't think it's a very like fair way to evaluate a person. But if so, that's where like knowing a different language does help in that sense. I would say that so from that so like from my lab experience with the Chinese people, and I'm also doing another educational research project with this French person. She's a chemistry lecturer in my host university, and we discussed completely in French. Although she told me that her French standard seems to be dwindling over the years, because she's been in Singapore for 10 over years and hasn't been speaking French much. Yeah, so we do it like an exchange program between the two of us. We both practice French together. But yeah, I think it does help when we like discuss stuff, because she just it's a bit more like uh, uh, fluent, I would say, to her when she speaks in French and discusses what she's thinking about. Yeah, so I think the common topic there is like the research idea. and all the when we speak in French, because we don't know the technical words also, so we just use English to replace them. We don't even translate them sometimes. But we speak completely in French throughout our entire discussion. So like I would say English as the starting point, and then knowing a different language as like um, knowing a bit more, or like continuing the conversation uh, further, right? Because I think if especially if you know like you can speak the other language at a comfortable level, I think it is worth trying to communicate with the other person if maybe it's a bit rude to say that clearly it's not going well, but if you feel that it might be better if you tried speaking in French. Although I do give like some, although I do give, because I'm also a language learner, I give some chances to like other people when if they really want to speak English with me, I would speak English with them. Like yeah, so originally like my mentor, he was speaking to me in English. Um, and I just continued speaking to him in English. But when we came to the lab, he felt more comfortable like explaining things in Chinese to me. So I was like, okay, we will just speak in Chinese when we're explaining stuff and stuff like that. When he speaks to me in English, I would just reply him in English. Yeah, so I think it's nice. Um, yeah, that we learn other languages so that we also understand people's struggles as well. Because when we learn another language, we are also struggling, right? Yeah, so it's nice to be it's good to be nice to other people who don't speak your language as well.
Yeah, I think this is a very nice message to the end of this discussion. Thank you very much for all the comments and experiences you shared. And thanks for everyone who did listen to this episode. This was our SciLang Global Podcast with Ryan.
Thank you.